This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is January 15th, 2024. It's MLK Day. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. I guess not as always this time. You're a special guest. Kevin Tucker. Luke's out of town doing his work thing. What's going on, producer Kevin Tucker? How are you?
Jonathan, glad to be here as always. Always good to chat with you. And this is off to a great start. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
as a special guest.
For sure. How are you doing out there? A little cold in Savannah. You're recording from your post-game live studio out there, all bundled up.
That's right.
How's weather in Savannah these days?
It's better than the Midwest, that's for sure. I mean, obviously, sports fans this weekend saw Kansas City and the craziness that was out there. I do not miss that. For those that don't know, I lived out in Indianapolis for 4 years, and I don't miss it. I love Indy, great city. But the winter weather for about 4 months of the year is just brutal. I'm glad to be in the South where this is as cold as it gets. It's like 44. I can handle this. All right, that's good.
Speaking of the NFL playoffs, my Giants obviously nowhere near the playoffs, but your Bucks and a lot of listeners, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are playing this evening, right? Because the Bills have the day game. The Eagles, how are you feeling going into that?
Terrible. Don't feel good at all. I have zero belief, but it's the playoffs. It's sports. Anything can happen. Obviously the only reason the Bucs are even in this position is because of the division they play in. But, we'll see. That's the thing. You never know. We've got weapons on both sides of the ball. The Eagles are, reeling essentially. Like they've fallen apart the last, month and a half or so, whatever it's been. So we got a shot. We're at home. The thing that's annoying, as you know, living in the Tampa area, there will be way too many Eagles fans at that game. So that'll be no fun. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, we got a shot. Of course, some listeners will be listening to this after this game and you'll know how it goes. But I'll be watching. We'll see how it goes. And maybe, just maybe, the Bucs can pull off the upset.
So we're recording this Sunday night. Obviously, before Monday, the Magic take on the New York Knicks in New York today. That game is going to tip off at 3 o'clock Eastern. So a nice little early afternoon matinee. MLK Day. I believe every NBA team plays on MLK
I believe that's
Day.
correct.
Yeah. So lots to look forward to. Listening to this episode, hopefully we're getting you primed for that game. So excited. Looking at the standings, it's all very, very close. We'll talk more about that in just a second. So, but before we start talking Magic basketball, just a couple of talking points here. Our next episode of the Sixth Fan Show is going to be recorded this Friday, the 19th. Outside of Kia after the Magic take on the Philadelphia 76ers. And don't forget, y'all, still vote All-Star, vote.nba.com. Vote Paolo, vote Franz, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, all your favorite Magic players to the All-Star game. Paolo Banchero jumped a couple of spots, got above Kyle Kuzma. Thank God. Really, really needed that. Magic fans galvanized around Paolo Banchero getting ahead of Kyle Kuzma, so we were able to make that happen for him. We want to see him get a little bit higher, not too far behind Julius Randle, and Orlando Magic player beating out a Knick that's playing really, really well this year would be awesome. So continue to vote for those guys each and every day, and make sure that you're getting your votes in on those 3-for-1 days as well. Kevin, let's get into the state of the Magic. This week, unfortunately, the Magic went 0-3 with losses to the Minnesota Timberwolves on Tuesday, a loss to the Miami Heat on Friday, and a loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder on Saturday. They currently sit 8th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 21-18. They are now 9 games back of first place Boston, 6 games back of second place Milwaukee, 4 games back of third place Philadelphia. 4 games doesn't seem like it's all that much. 2 games back of Cleveland, Indiana, and New York. They're a game and a half back of Miami, 3 games up on Chicago, 4.5 games up on Brooklyn, 5.5 games up on Atlanta, and 6 games up on Toronto. They are now 24th on the season in the NBA in offensive rating with a rating of 112.2. They're 5th in the NBA in defensive rating with a rating of 111.2, and they are 16th in net rating with a net rating of 1, exactly 1. taking a look at the injury report, we've got some good news. We've got some bad news. The good news, Joe Ingles returned to the lineup Friday against Miami after missing 14 games with an ankle sprain. Jonathan Isaac returned to the lineup Saturday against Oklahoma City after missing 10 games with a sore hamstring. Kevin, he's now played 22 of the Magic's 39 games. That is a 45-game pace if he continues at the current level of injuredness that he's been. Now, if he can get healthy and put a nice stretch together, maybe he can get to 55, 60 plus games would be incredible. Definitely need that guy to be a bit more healthy here. Wendell Carter Jr. has missed the past 5 games with knee tendonitis. He is questionable for Monday's game against New York. Franz Wagner has missed the past 5 games with an ankle sprain. He is ruled out for Monday. Gary Harris has missed the past 5 games with a calf strain. Also has been ruled out for Monday. And then Markelle Fultz and Joe Ingles both missed the second night of the back-to-back Saturday night as they both work back from injury, but both are expected to play Monday, Kevin. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of tea here, a little bit of the rumor mill. Friday, Jake Fisher reported that Wendell Carter Jr. is expected by league executives to be involved in trade talks as we get closer to the deadline. And Sunday, Mark Stein reported that the Magic are exploring trade talks around Markelle Fultz. Kevin, what do you make of these rumors? Do they surprise you? And do you expect the Magic to make moves as we're now 3.5 weeks away from the trade deadline?
Do they surprise me? No. First off, on 2 fronts. Number one, the rumor mill is going to rumor mill, Like, it's that time of year. It's just about silly season, as we call it, as we are, as you said, just less than a month now away from the trade deadline. So rumors are going to fly about every team. All 30 teams are going to have rumors, so that doesn't surprise me. Specifically about the Magic, it really doesn't surprise me. Those 2 guys, specifically Markelle, Wendell, at one point, even, just as little as, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, thought to be really important pieces of this core. And then 2 things happen. Number one, they get injured again, which unfortunately has been par for the course for both of those guys. But then the big thing that happened, Jonathan, those guys went out and the Magic kept winning. And I think it made some people in the organization and people outside of the organization go, okay, maybe these guys are more expendable than we originally thought, maybe in the offseason. So it's tough though, because I think most Magic fans really love those guys. Like, as human beings, like, those are great guys. And even as basketball players, they're good basketball players. They just can't stay on the floor. And I don't care how good you are, you're not worth as much if you can't be healthy. And so that's the hard part with those guys. I think both those guys are so talented. They're great locker room guys. They're great community guys. And so I would hate to see them go. However, does it surprise me that they're being discussed? No. The extra thing, though, and I'm sure you'll mention this, is it's kind of hard to trade a guy that's hurt, or that can't stay healthy. Like, if the Magic don't want him because they can't be healthy, what teams are going to want him? That's the hard part where the Magic are right now, is even if they do decide to deal those guys, what are you even going to get back? And will it even be worth a trade, So all that, to say, Jonathan, I'm not surprised. And I definitely expect a deal come deadline day. Is it for one of those guys, both of those guys? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
So not only have they, not been available, they haven't really been all that impactful when they have been available. Right. Now, we've had the conversation of, a few weeks ago when Wendell came back, it was like, all right, well, let's sort of let him play himself back into the rotation and back into rhythm. And as soon as it looked like he was getting back into that rhythm, he's hurt again.
Yeah.
Now, Markelle, since he's come back, has really just looked like a shell of himself, if I'm being totally honest. Like, even like athletically doesn't look the same. Like, the fast break that he had against the Miami Heat, where a couple of years ago, like, Markelle would take off from almost like the free throw line.
Yeah. Just
didn't look like he had the same level of lift as he's had in past years. I'm looking at Markelle and Wendell's numbers. So Markelle's only played in 8 games this year, averaging almost 24 minutes a game, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting just under 45% from the floor. Hasn't made a 3 this season. He's shooting 40% from the free throw line. I don't know if how big of a deal it really is, but one thing is for certain is like the hitch in his jump shot is completely back. Like all the progress that he's made over the course of the last few seasons with his shooting form seemingly has just gone out the window. Like now you see the KT tape, on the back of his shoulder. I don't know how much the thoracic outlet syndrome is really a factor. And I talked about this with Luke a couple of weeks ago or a week or so ago when Markelle came back. The fact that the whole talk around his TOS since he came back the first time, like when he first joined the Magic, his shoulder's good to go. It was, okay, we found a regiment that works for me. Now it's all about maintenance. So I have two big questions now. Is the maintenance no longer working? Or did you sort of fall off that maintenance, which allowed this to happen? Both of which are massive concerns.
Yeah, it's funny. I sometimes when it comes to the Magic, I probably have, I don't know about rose-colored glasses, but blue-colored glasses. I tend to give the Magic the benefit of the doubt a lot, probably to a fault. And so early on when Markelle was out, this season, there were these people, online, Twitter, Reddit, whatever, saying, "Oh, I think it's the TOS flaring up again, but they don't want to tell us, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, guys, come on, there's no way that's that. His knee hurts, right? And then he comes back and you're like, oh, crap. Maybe this is the reason he's been out this whole time. I don't know. Obviously, the Magic can potentially get in trouble for, quoting an injury or whatever. They can get in trouble with the league for that. So I'm not exactly sure if that really happened, but it's concerning. And maybe it's just more so when he's away from the game for so long, that kind of maybe tends to creep back in. And so he has to get his reps back in. I don't know. That is the one thing with both Wendell and Markelle. They've been out so much. I still can't bring myself to fully judge how they're playing yet. If you think about Wendell was, he played the first, was it almost 4 full games. The Utah game is the 4th game of the season. And then he's out for, 2 months, 3, I don't remember how many it was. Comes back and doesn't look great. He does have that one good game. And I can't remember who we were playing. The Phoenix game. Had a great game in that Phoenix game. We're like, oh, Wendell's back. And then, as you said, gets hurt again. So zero opportunity for him to get his legs under him. Zero opportunity for him to get a real rhythm to his game. And the same thing with Markelle. You said only played 8 games this season. We played 39 games now. He's only played 8 of them. And so part of me is it's still so hard to judge these guys. Because just like any job, your job, my job, if we're away from it for so long and then all of a sudden we have to get thrust back into it, it's going to take us some time to get our reps in, to feel comfortable. And so, again, part of it is I love those guys and I don't want to see them fail and don't want to see them get traded, as human beings and as basketball players. But then at the same time, it's maybe it's time. I don't know. But yeah, maybe it just takes more games, get their legs under them, but they're running out of time, I think is what it comes down to. They're running out of time. Like you said, February 8th is right around the corner. Is that going to be enough time for them to, claim a stake in this team going forward? I really don't know. We'll have to see.
So we talk about the way that they've performed. I think what doesn't really help their case is the way that other guys have filled in their absence.
So true.
With Markelle being out, you just look at the way that Paolo has really taken over, setting up the offense. But then the way that Jalen has played, the way that Anthony Black has played, lately I find myself why is Markelle in? Anthony Black should be on the floor. And I never thought that I would say that heading into this season. We look at the way that Goga has played and the way that Mo has played in Wendell's absence, which has sort of led to those thoughts of hey, are these guys expendable? The one guy who has not been as injured, but still has been injured throughout the season is Jonathan Isaac. And I don't know about you, Kevin, but I find myself feeling differently about the JI situation because when he has played, he has been so impactful. And it's okay, that's sort of a guy that I'm more willing to wait on because when he plays, it seems to make a massive difference.
Yeah, it's 2 things to that. Saturday night against OKC, JI comes back. And while he's, not going to jump off the stat sheet at you, he didn't even have a field goal Saturday night. The way he plays defense, and I think it took him a little bit, first few possessions, maybe missed a step. But thinking back, and obviously we'll talk about this OKC game later, but to your point, into the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, Jalen Williams is cooking you. And what happens? They put Jonathan Isaac on you and he shuts him down. So even though Jonathan Isaac, he doesn't have to, jump off stat sheet at you. He's impactful in his own way. And some nights the shots are falling or whatever, but defense is his thing. But going back to your point about Markelle, Wendell trying to play their way out of, play their way into fitness or whatever. That's one of the biggest differences with this season versus the last two seasons. The last two seasons, this team gave opportunities for players to come back from injury or to grow or to develop because they weren't really playing for anything, right? This season is where it's different. Not only for the front office, for the coaching staff, but us as fans, the expectation is higher. And so there's such a shorter leash for guys like Markelle to where in past years, it's like, oh, he's out there because he's coming back from an injury. It's okay. Let him play through it. Whereas now it's like, we're trying to win these games and he's not helping us. And so it's so interesting. It's a totally different position that this team is in and that our fan base is in, the front office is in, that we haven't had in a long time, which is a good thing, but it's just so different. It's so different. So that's part of where I think the frustration comes from Markelle. If this was last year, 2 years ago, everyone would be like, oh, it's all right, just let him get his legs under it and he'll be fine. And now it's like, he's part of, I don't want to say he's part of the problem, but we need someone to positively contribute to win games. And right now he's just not doing it.
Like, what was that? Friday night against Miami. Like there's times he's bringing the ball up and we've got a 3-on-2 and Markelle's not even looking at the rim. Like he's past first point guard, but this was like to our detriment. Like was not looking to attack at all, just looking to move the ball. Offensively, he just does not seem confident right now. Like does not look like the same guy. And even the first few games of the year, it probably was that knee tendonitis was starting to flare up on him and he could feel that coming on and didn't look like himself. But since he's been back, hasn't really looked like himself. Another guy, as we are getting close to the trade deadline, that I'm really interested to see what happens with is Gary Harris, because of the recent emergence of Caleb Houston. Like Caleb Houston gives you a lot of what Gary Harris gives you, and Caleb Houston is a guy that's still under contract for another 2 years, making $2 million a year. Gary Harris is an expiring contract. Is he going to re-sign? Are the Magic going to be willing to pay him probably a pretty similar contract to what they re-signed him to before last season? So, yeah, what do you think about that? Do you see a move getting made, and what do you think, or what would you prefer the move to be?
Yeah, I recently talked about this on post-game show, which, by the way, 6-Man Show post-game live presented by Rock'em after each and every Orlando Magic game. Come check us out on YouTube. I recently talked about this, the fact that Caleb Houston, in my eyes, has 100% earned a spot in the Magic's rotation. 100%. Credit to him for stepping up when he was given the opportunity with these injuries. I think he's 100% earned it. Here's what I think might happen, though. I think Gary Harris comes back from injury anytime now. Well, of course, I've said that for weeks, but anytime now he's going to come back from injury. And Gary's going to get his spot back right away. And I think Caleb might lose those minutes. However, like I said, I think he's earned the spot, and I think Gary gets dealt. I really believe that. The other option is Caleb has earned his spot and Gary is benched. That would surprise me, because I think there are still plenty of teams, contending teams, that would love a Gary Harris, who's obviously not just a good defender, typically a good shooter, although this season not so much, and a veteran presence. A lot of teams would like that. But I think Caleb, in this short stretch, has 100% earned a spot in this rotation, not just this season, but going forward. Like, what does this team need more than anything? They need shot making. We need a guy to hit shots from the perimeter, and that's pretty much all he does, offensively at least. So you'll take it. But that's all we need, especially when Franz is back. You get Paolo and Franz in there together with Caleb Houston. I mean, come on now. Defense has to leave somebody open. And if it's Caleb, I'm okay with it. So I'm a huge Caleb Houston fan. You are obviously for sure a huge Caleb Houston fan. And I'm really happy with what we've seen from him. And the other thing I'll add about him, he was such a one-dimensional player last year. This season, he's adding some other dimensions to his game. Like, he is hustling. He is rebounding when given the opportunity. I don't want to say he's finishing at the rim. He's only done that like twice, but he's shown he's capable. And so I think over the course of time, maybe his game will open up even more. And if they run him off the 3-point line, maybe he'll take it to the rim. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I've been so impressed with Caleb, so happy for him, and I think he's definitely earned a spot in this rotation going forward.
So given all the factors that we've talked about, like we've talked about Markelle and Wendell both, expected to or rumored to be involved in exploratory trade conversations. Talked about Gary Harris might be a guy that the Magic could be looking to move. Who is the move for you? Like, I feel like I know who you're going to say, but like, what would be like your dream trade deadline scenario for the Magic? Like, do you have somebody like targeted?
Here's what I'll say. I don't know that I have anyone specifically targeted. There are people that, there are guys that Magic Twitter and such have pointed out would be a great fit for this team. What I'm most interested in is, will this front office make a move like that? Like, will they make a move for a player, or will they make a move for more assets? That's like the biggest question mark I have, because in the past, the answer is easy. Like last 2 years, they would be trading for assets, like no question about it. But like I mentioned earlier, this expectation for the season is different. And so will the front office be looking to add a piece that makes this team better for this season? I don't know. That would be again, totally different move than this front office has made in past trade deadlines. Very much future forward looking. Like you think about the Markelle trade, that was at the deadline. That was obviously such a far forward thinking move. He was not, traded to win now. And then the other examples, obviously, the last couple of years. So that's my biggest question mark. I don't think I have a player in mind, but I just have no idea. I don't know if this front office is ready to trade in some of our assets for, a current asset versus trading our assets for a future asset. Does that make sense? Like that's my biggest question mark.
Yeah, it's because the Magic don't really ever talk about, what they're going to do or what the plan is. Yeah. You're just always having to play, like connect the dots and guess and speculate about what they're going to do. What I'm thinking is like the Magic just like tend to surprise us. Like when you don't think they're going to make a move is when they make a move, right? Like the trade deadline in 2021, we kind of thought that Evan and AG would be moved and we would move into like the next age of whatever the Magic were going to look like, and then boom, Vooch is gone, and we're all like, well, we didn't really expect that. We didn't see that coming. No. So I just go back to Tyus Jones. There was a trade today involving the Washington Wizards and the Detroit Pistons, in which the Pistons traded Marvin Bagley to the Wizards. It was Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Livers and 2 future round draft picks to the Washington Wizards for Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala. I don't think the Wizards got better in that move, trading for Marvin Bagley, who has largely been disappointing since coming into the league, Isaiah Livers, who a lot of Detroit Pistons fans couldn't wait to move, and 2 future second-round picks. So it seems like the Wizards are officially going into the mode of like these veteran guys that we have that we don't think are going to be a part of the long-term vision here. We're going to start to move them for young players and picks.
Sorry, I was just going to say, that trade is one of the funniest things ever to me. And here's why. Because think about those Wizards guys. Like, they're like, oh, this is the worst season ever. It can't get any worse than this. And they get traded to Detroit. I saw that trade. Like, of all the teams to trade with each other, the Wizards and the Pistons, it cracked me up. Sorry, I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. Like, Danilo Gallinari, who's had quite the NBA career, obviously ups and downs and injuries. Like, that dude does not want to play in Detroit right now. Are you kidding me? Like, he's like, screw this. I'm out of here. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, but again, I just go back to it. It seems like they're starting to make those kinds of moves.
Yeah.
And because of the injuries from this year, I don't know if Markelle makes sense. I don't know if Wendell makes sense in that deal. Now, Gary, on the other hand, is a guy, again, who's expiring, that I think if it's Gary Harris, and maybe you can get by with a couple of second-round picks in a deal for a guy like Tyus Jones. Again, I'm fine with moving that 2025 first-round pick from Denver. The way that this team is going, like, we're not going to be bringing in multiple rookies a year, like in a given draft class. Like, that's right. It's just not going to happen as this team continues to grow and take steps towards, perennial playoff appearances and contention eventually. The days of us having, multiple first-round picks and using them, I think, are behind us. And Denver is going to be good for quite some time with Jokic, with Murray. It's going to be a late first at the absolute best. Like, you're talking about, a high 20s pick. So I'm good with moving that personally if the move is for Tyus Jones, and then it just comes down to like whether or not the Magic are going to be able to re-sign that guy. If you're confident about that, that's a move that makes you better for this year, and it makes you better in the future. But what I struggle with is we just still don't know what this front office values this year. Like we're all talking about, we've raised the expectations. We have a new standard. Yeah, fans say that. But from Jeff Weltman and Anthony Parker's perspective, why would we change expectations? Like at this point, if their goal was the play-in for this year, they're probably already going to match that. And the rest of the season, they're playing with house money. So if they don't feel a strong need to improve the team for this season, then they're not going to make a move. We've got 3.5 weeks, and we probably won't know until the last minute. Odds are they're not going to make a move. It just kind of is what it is. But it kind of sucks because, like, hey, like the team's competitive. If you can make a move that makes you better now and for the future, it would be really exciting. Like we're at the point now where I'm not waiting for like the next superstar trade. I'm not waiting for Donovan Mitchell to request a trade or any of these other guys. Like I'm good with Paolo. I'm good with Franz. Accentuate what those guys do well. And a guy like Tyus Jones be the perfect fit around those guys, or a lot of the other shooters that are going to be discussed up to the trade deadline. That's really where we're at with the Magic. You've seen the evolution of Paolo the last couple of weeks, and that's largely come with playing next to guys like Jalen Suggs and Caleb Houston, who are shooting pretty close to 40% from behind the arc this season. I think that's like the next step for this team, and the writing's on the wall. Everybody knows that, but are they going to start that now, or like it should start this coming off season at the absolute latest? We shouldn't have another year of, hey, let's just evaluate and see what we have. It's like, no, we kind of know what we have. We know that these guys can't stay healthy. Jury is kind of out on JI. Like if he ends up playing 65 games this year, like it's still a possibility. Like he would have to play every single game for the rest of the year, but it is still a possibility for him. But when it comes to Markelle, when it comes to Wendell, I think most people are looking around like, hey, we weren't that bad without those guys. They can't stay healthy. And when they have played, they haven't looked great this year. And other guys are stepping up in their absence. So it's a difficult conversation, but we got 3.5 weeks here. I'm hoping that the Magic make a move. I would love to make a push for 4, 5, or 6. I mean, heck, we're 4 games back of 3. I don't think you're going to get there, but you're 4 games back halfway through the season. Like, what are we evaluating at this point? That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I've seen what I need to see.
Yeah. Part of it is obviously it's interesting because the schedule is going to get easier right around this time, like right around the time of the deadline, maybe the week before or whatever. So that's interesting. But I'm with you. I think the move is to get somebody who's healthy, whether that's us acquiring a healthy person or some of our guys coming back healthy. But you said something, Jonathan. You said it's probably more likely that they don't make a trade. I don't know that I agree with that. I think it's more likely that the Magic do make a trade. Now, please,
a significant trade.
That's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. Because this team, like this front office, I think they'll make a trade. I don't know if it's going to be what Magic fans want, but they're known for these things, right? Like these second round swaps or whatever. So I think the Magic will make a trade, but yes, you're right. That is the question. Is it significant? Does it move the needle for this team? Does it make this team healthy with healthier contributors? Obviously, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think the Magic make a deal. And I think there's a chance they actually make a move, like a real move, not a huge one, but a move that adds bodies. And I guess we'll find out in 3.5 weeks.
Most people would say like a move for Tyus Jones, like if it is Gary Harrison, a couple of future second round picks, some people would say that's not a huge move. Like, is it a huge name move? No. But in terms of what it would bring to this team, I do think that is a huge move.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a huge move, not just for what it would do for this team, but it's a huge move, again, by this front office. Like a move like that really shows what the intentions are of this front office. And also, you're 100% right. Talk about, can we secure him long term? This front office isn't stupid. They're not making that move if they don't know that Tyus Jones will stay here. They'll have their conversations with him, tampering or not. They'll find out. They'll find out if Tyus Jones wants to stay here because they're not going to throw away. Now, let me back up. If they don't have to throw away a lot, like if it's, like you said, a Gary Harris expiring and, a second rounder or something crazy like that, you go, okay, yeah, they'll take that. But yeah, if they're putting any kind of significant assets, they're not going to do it without knowing for sure that he'll stay at beyond this season.
And another point is if you trade for Tyus Jones now, I believe you get his bird rights, which means you can exceed the salary cap to re-sign him if you need to. So if this is the year that the Magic are going to go on a spending spree, you make an agreement with Tyus Jones, you get another couple of we've got Paolo, we've got Franz, we've got Tyus Jones, we've got Jalen Suggs, and now we're talking to, I don't know, is it a Nick Claxton this offseason? Like, hey, you sign here, then we're going to re-sign Tyus Jones. We're going to be a little bit over the cap. We're going to make it work. And next year you're rolling into the season. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but you rolling in next season with a starting lineup of Nick Claxton, Paolo, Franz, Jalen, and Tyus Jones. Like, we're talking about home court advantage in the first round next year.
Yeah, we might be talking about it this year. That's still not out of the realm possibility, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, let's go back to Friday night. Let's talk about this Miami game. First of all, Kevin, I know you did not have the pleasure of attending the watch party that we had over at Hagen O'Reilly's, but I had never been to like the Winter Garden area of Orlando. I had never been to Hagen O'Reilly's. That might be like other than Wall Street, of course, that might be one of my favorite venues that we've ever had for a watch party. Like, awesome atmosphere, like small but spacious inside. It's like a really like intimate environment. And like the folks that came out just brought the energy from the jump. Like Maddie World Peace was sitting next to us. There was a woman sitting behind him. Her name was Shelly. Shelly was bringing the energy the entire night. As always, met a lot of listeners and other Magic fans. Appreciate meeting everybody. Nick Anderson was there. Got to talk to Nick Anderson. Got to shake his hand. And I said, look, I know you're happy for the big fella. If it was up to us, you'd be the first jersey in the rafters. I had to let him know that. We're trying to get Nick Anderson on the show. We'll see what happens with that. But I just wanted to shout out everybody for the watch party. It was a ton of fun. The Heat game, it was fun. It had its moments, but ultimately, you don't come away with the victory, 99-96. Take a look at the box score. Magic, not a great start. First quarter outscored 22-30, but made a good run in the second quarter, down 1 at the half. Really, the majority of like the second quarter and into the third and fourth quarter, the Heat just kept this like 4 to 8 point cushion where like every time the Magic cut it close, they would go on a little bit of a run. Want to fast forward to the fourth quarter. Magic were down, I believe it was 92-95 with 1:10 to left. Paolo Banchero drives to his right, hits a fadeaway to make it a 1 point game with 1:10 to go. Bam Adebayo misses a 17-foot jumper. Magic going the other way. Paolo goes back to the same spot, the fall away jumper from the baseline to put the Magic up 96-95 with 38 seconds left. Couple of possessions later, 19 seconds left. Bam Adebayo hits the pull up over Mo Wagner. Now the Magic have the ball down 1 with 19 seconds left. Paolo drives, misses the bank shot, but collects his own rebound, Kevin. And when I tell you, all of Hagen O'Reilly's was expecting Paolo to just lay that ball back in. He goes up, the ball just falls out of his hands and into Haywood Highsmith's hands. The Magic have to foul. He makes both free throws. Paolo drives the length of the floor with 8 seconds left, misses the pull-up at the end, and the dirty, stinking, freaking Heat get away with the 96-99 victory in Miami over our Magic. Kevin, what were your thoughts from this game?
This game, doing the post-game show for this game was interesting because this game, I think, thinking back to the previous 37 games or whatever it was before this game, I think this one disappointed me the most. And what I mentioned on the show was it wasn't the last 30 seconds. Like, it wasn't Paolo missing that bank shot. It wasn't Paolo, losing the handle on the way up for the putback. It wasn't Paolo taking that long three to try to tie the game. It wasn't any of those things. It was like the first quarter, honestly. Like, the first quarter is where you lost this game. And what was so frustrating about this game, Jonathan, was that the Heat were without Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry. I'm probably forgetting one other, but those are the three main ones. And so the fact that they rolled out there 8 deep, they played 8 guys on Friday night. And when you think about the guys that did play, you had their starting 5. Haywood Highsmith starts and plays 32 minutes. Nikola Jovic didn't play great, but played 25 minutes. Bam obviously 40 minutes. Duncan Robinson played 41 minutes. Hawkwez Jr. 37 minutes. Josh Richardson 25. Kevin Love 16. Caleb Martin 24. That's it. That's who played for the Heat. And so coming into that game, seeing their roster, I know we're hurt, guys. We just talked about it. I know how hurt we are. But I thought our team stacked up against that team should have won this game relatively easily. And so the fact that they go out there with an extra day of rest, by the way, in that first quarter and absolutely lay an egg on both ends of the floor, I was heated. I was so just disappointed because I thought this was a game you absolutely had to win. First off, in a vacuum, like I said, that our roster versus their roster, I thought you should have won this game. But then we think about the importance of this back-to-back and the fact that you have to go from Miami to OKC, which is a joke, by the way. Screw the NBA. You have to go from Miami to OKC, which is a scheduled loss. So you feel like you got to get this one. And so I was so disappointed, crushed. Okay, I know injuries are an excuse. They're a reason, whatever. But Miami had just the same excuse and reason, if not more. You really should have won this game. So anyway, the first quarter really disappointed me. The rest of the game was just meh. Like you said, it was that same deficit the whole time. Credit the Magic, of course. They're never going to give up. They clawed back several times. That second Paolo jumper in the fourth, that was amazing. Like seeing him hit that twice back-to-back, same spot, was just exhilarating. And I thought we were going to win after that. I really did. I was like, okay, we're going to get the stop. This game's going to be over. And then obviously, you mentioned what happened. So disappointing. I'm not disappointed at Paolo for that stuff at the end. He's the reason you're in that position in the first place. So anyway, yeah, all in all, just maybe the most disappointing loss of the season for me.
Yeah, what really annoyed me was just like the level of ease at which Miami was getting to the rim. Like Duncan Robinson should not be a guy that is blowing past your guards on the perimeter. Like that should just never, ever happen.
No.
And the lack of like a rim presence, like the Magic had 8 blocks in this game. Do not let that fool you. Okay, Jalen Suggs had 3, Markelle had 1, Cole Anthony had 1, Chuma had 1, Goga had 1, and Mo Wagner had 1 as well. Like 8 blocks to Miami's 1, which would be like, oh wow, the Magic probably did a pretty good job protecting the rim. Absolutely not. Like they were legitimately getting to the rim at will. I know Mo had it going offensively, especially late in the game, but having Mo, especially that last possession when Bam Adebayo was able to hit that pull-up jumper, but Bam was just cooking Mo Wagner the entire night. Now, Goga wasn't doing much better, but it's like we have a long track record of Goga's defense and Mo Wagner, and sticking with Mo because he had the hot hand offensively down the stretch. Down the stretch, I don't care who has the hot hand. You're giving Paolo and Franz the ball. Anybody else's offense, unless the excuse is like, hey, well, they're going to help with like stretching the floor. Mo doesn't exactly help you stretch the floor.
Right.
So I thought it was a little bit strange that we didn't have Mo sitting on the bench and having Goga in down the stretch. But like, yes, the defense is an issue, but for the most part, like Jalen Suggs, I know he missed a ton of this game because of the illness. He was able to play on Sunday and comes back in that final possession, but he only played almost 14 minutes in the game. But we've got to get some more, Trevelyan Queen and Anthony Black out there to try to stop Duncan freaking Robinson and Hawkwez Jr. from getting to the rim over and over and over again in this game. Like if you look at the box score, you look at the stat sheet, the Magic shoot 43.9% from the floor to Miami's 44%. 12 offensive rebounds for Miami, 10 for the Magic. You're out rebounded 38-41. It's pretty close there. 26 assists for the Magic to 23 for Miami. 10 steals for the Magic to 6 for Miami. 8 blocks for the Magic to 1 for Miami. And then you win the turnover battle, 11-16. Like this game, like literally comes down to the fact that you shoot worse than Miami from the floor, and you miss 8 free throws, 12 for 20 in this game. Like Goga, 0 for 2, Markelle 1 for 2, Cole Anthony 1 for 2, Joe Ingles 0 for 1, Anthony Black 1 for 2. Like that's the difference in the game right there. So it just drives me crazy. Is like, how many times are we going to lose for the same reasons this year? You either can't defend on a certain night. I know we've had a ton of guys in and out of the lineup that has caused that to be an issue. But free throw shooting and turnovers, especially lately, it's just gotten crazy.
Yes, 100% agree. I'm sorry. I'm so distracted. I just got to be brutally honest with our viewers who probably just saw me react. Dame just hit a long three straight away at the buzzer to beat the Kings in overtime. Sorry. Dame time in Milwaukee, like crazy. I pulled it up because there was 4 seconds left. I was like, let me see what happens. And then Dame did that and my eyes got real big. Okay, sorry. Back to this game. I did want to mention, you mentioned it already. I know I just totally crapped on this team for losing this game and losing the first quarter and all those kinds of things. It is worth noting, like whatever sickness is going through this team is legit. I don't want to like blow past this and just totally poop on this team because I mean, it is just run through the entire team right now. And this team is ravaged by this, whatever sickness this is. It's making guys, I mean, apparently like stomach sick. So you mentioned Jalen playing through it. Obviously Anthony Black played through it on, was it Tuesday, I guess? And then obviously didn't come back in the game. So credit these guys. I never want to sit here and say they didn't try, didn't give their best effort. I don't think that's ever been the case with this team. Now, I think they take plays off. It happens, whatever. But I think on the whole, this team is never lacking effort or will or whatever. Please don't mishear me on that. It's just that we got cooked by a veteran team. That's what it comes down to. Maybe it was a lack of focus at times. So that's unfortunate. But I just had to be sure I added that for this game and the OKC game. Our guys are fighting through some junk, and so credit to them. Always appreciate them for doing that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I thought this was going to be earlier in the day. We get the stat that the Magic haven't, forget who it was. It might have been Orlando Muse on Twitter, I think. The Magic hadn't won in Miami since March of 2019.
Gross.
When the Heat were retiring Chris Bosh's jersey, that whole lengthy halftime Magic come back in that game, part of that 22-9 stretch to end the season. And I was there. DJ Strong came out to the watch party, and he asked me to come up and give some stats or whatever to the Magic faithful that were there. I was like, Magic haven't won in Miami in 5 years. That ends tonight. And unfortunately, it did not end that night.
Yeah, it's rough.
All right. Want to take a couple of minutes here just to give a shout out to our patrons, the folks that help make each and every episode happen. Part of our Patreon is we have our Discord channel where we've had a massive influx of people. I think earlier this morning, Sunday morning, bright and early, Magic Faithful were going crazy in there for a good hour or so, just debating different things about the current state of the team. So it's just awesome that we have 50 plus Magic fans in that Discord right now, that literally all day, every day, people are in there talking Magic basketball. And the thing that I was most proud of today is people disagree, about things all the time. And on social media, especially, it gets really nasty, but people were disagreeing. Everybody was entitled to their own opinion, and they were able to agree to disagree and do so in a respectful way. So if you're in the Discord, if you were part of that conversation, just wanted to give you guys a special shout out because I thought that was really awesome. So that's one of the benefits of our Patreon community. And another benefit is when we have brand new patrons, whenever we have them, we give them a very special shout out. So a special shout out to Barstool Magic, who just joined our Patreon at the elite tier level. Really, really appreciate that. Welcome to the community. I believe they've joined in the Discord already. If you haven't done so, please go ahead and do so. Always a fun talking with other Magic fans. And then we give a special shout out to all of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons each and every episode. We'll go ahead and start with the Court Cousins, and then best friend of the program, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Francis Warmth, Pierre A, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Danimal, Dodo 15, Bobby Skinner, Goody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Jose Esquilin, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95 Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Rican, Shahin 177, Bulby the Don, Himlo Ben Himro, R Improv 221, Magic Kid 714, Spanking Season, Soft Taco, Victor Cologne, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz Maria, Keith Walsh, Fritz, Currency Kev, Bruv Sal, Kason Green, Santi Leon, Kane Eckler, The Distract, Ahmad Timsa, Chantu, Tom Gadsden, Dead Air, Richard Tuttle, Jeremiah Quintero, and Barstool Magic, our newest patron. Again, a big shout out to all of our patrons. If you'd like to join our Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/the6man-show. So, Kev, we talk about, the Magic have this loss to Miami. They've got to fly to Oklahoma City. They get it in about 4 or 5 in the morning local time in OKC. got to get a couple hours of sleep, probably get a nice nap in the middle of the day. But now you're going up against, one of the best teams in the league this year, one of the best teams in the Western Conference in the Oklahoma City Thunder.
And one of the healthiest teams, by the way. Yes. Add that to the list. Nobody on the injury report for the Thunder.
Not a single soul.
Disgusting. It's unfair, Jonathan. I hate it.
I mean, did we maybe opening night? Yeah, I think opening night was like the only game this year that we haven't had a single person on the injury report. And that was like the first time in like 3 years that we didn't have a single person on the injury report.
Did we not get through the first 3 games? Was Wendell the first injury, that Utah game? Maybe, or did someone?
He might have been, but I feel like there was like so-and-so is day-to-day or so-and-so is questionable. If anything, it lasted all of 5 minutes, those first 3 games to start the year, which, in comparison, it isn't much. But to be here in the middle of January and you're going up against a decimated Orlando Magic team and you're sitting at home, OKC, without a soul on the injury report, it's not their fault that we've had to suffer what we've had to suffer, but it must be nice for them.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go into the first quarter. Not a great start to the first quarter for the Magic. Got down, I think it was 8-2 early, or even 10-2 early. But Magic able to sort of settle a little bit, and we're just down 1 at the end of the first quarter. Found themselves down 9 at the half. And really, the fourth quarter, especially, Shea just giving the Magic fits. Only 7 points, I guess, in that fourth quarter, but it felt like a heck of a lot more. 6 and 1s in this game for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Kevin, which, by the way, set an NBA record, or tied the NBA record, I should say. Not a great defensive performance by the Magic. Jalen Suggs, he's fighting through that illness. Friday night had to leave the game, came back in, still fighting through that illness, played 19 minutes in this game. But Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, 37 points. And this is another game that came down to turnovers and free throws. Magic 15 of 24 from the free throw line, and 15 turnovers to Oklahoma's 8. Oklahoma City's 8, and they shot 18-21. Neither team shot the ball exceptionally well. Magic actually shot the ball a bit better from the floor, 46 to OKC's 45%. And then both teams 20 and 22% for the Magic and the Thunder. So really, you lost this game, I felt like, on the offensive glass, turning the ball over, missing your free throws, tried to make a push late in the game, and then end up losing 112 to 110.
Yeah, it was obviously very disappointing. And interesting, because the Miami game, Miami actually turns the ball over more than you, but OKC is just a different animal. We talked about Miami's veterans. They just play at a different pace. They just play with their minds. OKC just plays with their speed, their athleticism, and obviously a lot of talent in SGA and other guys too. I don't want that to sound like a slight, but SGA is just crazy, Disappointing, obviously, the turnovers. The free throw shooting continues to be an issue for this team. I mean, how many times in the last couple of weeks have we said, you make a decent number of free throws, you win this game? Like, literally the difference in the game. So tonight, that was obviously a tough one on Saturday as well. Going back to the whole SGA thing, and I don't think anyone is more disappointed in himself than Jalen about Saturday night. Like, for him to take the bait on the first SGA pump fake is whatever. That's going to happen. He's a superstar. He's going to convince guys to jump for that. The second one, though, I was like, Jalen, come on, man. And I know he's kicking himself more than it disappointed me, but I was like, man, I know he was frustrated about that. But yeah, he was great. And the thing with SGA is, like, he's a foul merchant, but not in like the yucky, gross way, at least to me. Like, watching, like, it's not like watching a Trae Young or a Joel Embiid. He draws
legitimate contact.
He draws legitimate contact, whereas guys like Trae Young, Joel Embiid, kind of manufacture that contact. So yeah,
and even the manufactured contact isn't all that much, and then they have to sell it.
Right. Exactly. So can't stand Trae Young, but anyway, SGA, was great and made us pay. So yeah, it's tough, especially the second night of
ability to draw the contact and then just flip the ball up towards the backboard and for it to bank in like again and again. It's like, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah. So
not foul in the first place would be nice. But
that'd be That'd be my recommendation.
Jalen was getting his money's worth, and
he was,
and it just didn't matter to SGA. He just kept making them.
What I'm getting at though with that is second night of a back-to-back, a game that again in my book was a scheduled loss. Even when you're healthy and you add all these injuries, is in my mind a guaranteed loss, and yet you still had chances to win this game. But those things, the turnovers, the missed free throws, a couple of big-time offensive rebounds by OKC in the second half. That was the difference, unfortunately. And again, defensively, this team did a great job on OKC. Held them, especially like, what was it, the second quarter? I just have this in front of me. Whatever quarter it was like super low scoring. The first quarter was the lowest one, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I think that's what's most disappointing. I'd almost rather go out there and just get blown out like I expected us to. But to be that close and for it to come down to those things, that's where it hurts the most.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue that the Magic and the Thunder are just sort of on different levels right now. Like, both have been in the lottery for the last several years. But with the Thunder, it's been a little bit different because, I mean, even going back to like the 2019-2020 season, when Shea like really started to ascend, it's like, okay, they have a guy that they know that they can build around. And for us, we've just sort of been floundering, like trying to find that until I don't want to say stumble upon Franz, but it was really unexpected, the trajectory that he's had so far. And then you have to win the number 1 overall pick to end up with a guy like Paolo Banchero, where the last several seasons, like we get into late February, early March, and it's Shea has an ankle injury that's going to keep him out the rest of the year. And then they lose the majority of their games down the stretch and end up with a really nice, lottery pick, which has allowed them to draft guys like Chet, obviously, and like a Jalen Williams and like a Josh Giddey, that sort of put them in this position to just add complementary pieces around Shea. And now he's ascended to like this superstar level, and the entire team is just taken off. Not to mention the fact that they're an incredibly well-coached team. Like Mark Daignault has done an incredible job with them. Yeah. So I don't think anybody thinks like the Magic and the OKC are sort of on the same level. But looking at the schedule when it first came out, like when we looked at, we thought Detroit was going to be a lot better than they are, right? You circle teams like Detroit, like Oklahoma City, like Minnesota, like other young and up-and-coming teams in the league. Like, okay, let's see how we measure up. So back in August, this was the game that I was really looking forward to, and it's disappointing that you get to that game and you don't have healthy bodies. Like, if a guy is not hurt, he's absolutely sick. Like, even Paolo, like you hear it in his voice, all these guys, to one extent or another, have been infected by whatever is going on. And to his credit, he's been able to play through it. A lot of guys haven't been able to. Like, they have been that sick. So now we're looking at February 13th, the next time that we're going to play these guys at home on TNT. And I'm worried.
Yeah,
like, I am concerned about that game because our first nationally televised regular season game at home in over a decade. It's the night of Shaq's jersey retirement. Like, you absolutely have to win that game. And I have no idea how we match up with Oklahoma City because we didn't really get to see like the legitimate matchup of these two teams.
And
could we win? Sure. Could they beat us by 20? I have no idea because we just haven't seen what those teams look like up against one another.
And all OKC wants to do is spoil that night. That's all they're going to want to do. They're going to hear so much leading up to this game about this matchup, about Shaq, about blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be fuel. So the Magic are going to have to give them their best shot. And hopefully we're healthy enough to do it. But yeah, we'll see. Literally, you and I will see. We will be there. It will be a lot of fun.
To the Magic's credit, they scheduled a ceremony for after the game, which I think is a genius idea because you see these often at halftime, and it throws these guys way off. It's like the Super Bowl halftime show, like the elongated halftime, and guys sort of get out of their normal routine and rhythm.
Bosh.
So exactly. And we know how that night went. We just talked about that. But Kevin, the highlight of this game came in the second quarter. Let's talk about that.
Man, I tell you what, this was special, and I did not expect this to go this way. When Jonathan Isaac gets the ball and goes to the right, first off, Jonathan Isaac, this one-handed bounce pass to Trevelyan Queen as Trevelyan makes the backdoor cut was beautiful. It was great. Trevelyan Queen gets the ball, and who does he see in front of him? Chet Holmgren. And when he gathers and goes up, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. And yet, what happens? Trevelyan Queen yams it on Chet Holmgren. Let's go. A throwdown worthy of the title of Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. It was a sensational play all around. Like I said, the pass from Jonathan Isaac was terrific. But then Trevelyan Queen, to be fearless, go up to the rim and throw it down on Chet Holmgren, the legit shot blocker that he is. No doubt, this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week.
You and I were talking about TQ before, like right before we recorded the pod, we were talking about the Jam of the Week. Trevelyan has like a legitimate case for the best two-way player that we've had. Like, I think we're going to talk about Ignas Brazdeikis. We're going to talk about Admiral Schofield. We're going to talk about Kevon Harris.
Devin Kennedy.
Devin Kennedy. Was Jordan Bone? Yeah, I think Jordan Bone was a two-way as well.
Not him.
It might be Trevelyan Queen. It legitimately might be Trevelyan Queen. Like the way that I want to see a little bit more offensively from him, because we know that he has it, was the G League MVP a few seasons ago. But like defensively, I was not like, I find myself lately, with the amount of bodies that we've been missing, like I'm like, why is Cole in the game? Get Trevelyan Queen in the game for defense, offense. Those guys can go back and forth, whatever. But been pleasantly surprised by TQ the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to see. Yeah, well, not really. I think obviously the writing's on the wall. Once this team is healthy, he's not going to play. But he's done a good job. He's done a good job, filled in gaps. He hasn't lost you games, and so you'll definitely be happy with that. But yeah, that's the Jam of the Week this week for sure. What a day for Jam Hot Chicken this weekend, though, huh?
Jam. They had the Jam Fest. Well, first of all, I mean, they started the weekend off right. Myself and Luke Sylvia were there Friday night, and we were going hard. Luke Sylvia had the Sando, I had the box. And we just like ate until we about passed out. We were both like, hey, we're going to go to Hagen's. We're probably going to get something. I could not eat. I look over and Luke Sylvia has this massive brownie sundae in front of him. I'm like, dude, how are you possibly eating right now? He said, brother, this slaps. Can't help myself. So shout out to Luke Sylvia. But Jam Hot Chicken, located at 400 West New England Avenue over there in Hannibal Square in Winter Park. They had their Jam Fest this Saturday. Their Jam Fest is like the annual like festival they have outside of Jam Hot Chicken over there in Winter Park, where people obviously can come and eat. They have different vendors out there. They have live music and just vibes, just great vibes. And this year also sort of lined up with them celebrating their 2-year anniversary at that location there. So we saw a ton of videos on social media of the line like all the way down the block. People were saying it was a 45-minute wait in the line just to get to the window all day long. The food was fantastic, as always. I know all the vendors did a great job. Our guy Gio from Players Closet Only was over there, or Players Only Closet, sorry. He was over there selling vintage Orlando Magic gear. Said it was a fantastic event. Everybody out there was having a great time. So just super happy for our friends over there at Jam Hot Chicken. If you haven't tried it yet, I had a few people that this was their first time this weekend when they went to Jam Fest. And I was like, listen, you have to tell me what you think, because I know we hype it up, but to a person, every single person that goes there, they're like, you guys hyped it up, but somehow like it exceeded the hype. I told Andrew, who runs Jam Hot Chicken, I said, sometimes I feel like I might let my own bias get in the way of like how I feel about our partnership with them and how I feel about the people that work there, obviously. And I'm like, is the food really as good as I remember it? And I do this. I psych myself out every single time. And every single time I take that first bite, I'm like, yeah, this is everything that I tell people that it is. So a big shout out to Jam Hot Chicken for their Jam Fest. A big shout out to all the Orlando Magic fans that showed up there to that event. And a big shout out to Gio. Go get yourself some Jam Hot Chicken, folks. Kevin, going back to this Thunder game, I don't really have anything to add. Just a disappointing game, but I keep coming back. It's not an excuse, but it's hard to really criticize this team when you just have so many guys that are either hurt or are not healthy. And as we continue to move through this stretch that we're in, you just have to continue to tread water. That's all you can do with guys in and out of the lineup. To be honest, if you would have told me a month ago, like during this stretch, we were going to deal with all of these injuries and the whole team would be sick, I'd say, hey, like we're not even going to win a game. And they fared pretty well the last couple of weeks, just down Franz and the whole team being sick especially.
Yeah, and something I think, I don't really know if we touched on it enough. Like, we got Joe Ingles back on Friday, and Joe Ingles was Joe Ingles. Like, he was great on Friday. And so
until it looked like he hurt himself again.
Yeah, that happened. But obviously, he didn't play the second night of a back-to-back. He did come back. Didn't play the second night in OKC. But you'd like to think this week, there's no back-to-backs. Maybe he's available for all three. That's a big boost. And so hopefully, game by game, we add some guys back into the fold, hopefully. Hopefully we get Franz back this week. That would be huge. Honestly, everyone else can stay injured for a while. If we can get Franz back, that changes the game big time. Just relieves that bit of pressure off of Paolo. Because right now, the poor guy is literally carrying us. His back has got to be so sore because he has just been carrying us for 2 weeks now. But yeah, like you mentioned, finding ways to win, even though we don't always necessarily think it's going to be possible. But this week will be interesting for sure. Like I said, hopefully we can just get one guy back at a time and hopefully eventually get healthy again.
So Luke and I, last week when we talked about this past week, we said like you have to find a way to get one of those games, whether it's versus Miami or at home versus Minnesota. OKC game was always super unlikely. You're traveling second night of a back-to-back, all that kind of jazz there. But it felt like you had to get one of those games, and you just weren't able to. So you go 0-3 last week. Now you're sitting at 21-18. You were around 4, 5, 6. Now you're down to 8. And now looking at the week ahead, we're starting it off right. Monday, you're in New York, in MSG against the Knicks. That game's tipping off at 3 o'clock. Then you travel to Atlanta on Wednesday, the last game of the road trip. Then you come home, and you're welcomed by Philadelphia and Miami Friday and Sunday. Kevin, how do you see this week going?
Really quick, as we talk about this New York game, I once again have to complain about the NBA schedule makers because this will now be the Magic's third NBA game in 67 hours. Because not only is it not just 3 games in 4 nights, it's 3 games in 4 days because this game tips off at 3 p.m. after you played a game that tipped off at 8 p.m. on Saturday. 3 games in 67 hours in 3 different cities. You go from Miami to Oklahoma City to New York in 67 hours. It is a joke. It is terrible. It is awful from the NBA. For that reason, and because of the Magic's health, I think you lose on Monday. I hate to say it. I would love to beat the Knicks. Always love to beat the Knicks. I especially love to beat them because they're flying high right now with their acquisitions. They're feeling great. Would love to knock them down a few pegs. I just think it's a schedule loss. I think this team is exhausted. I don't think one day off is going to do enough for you. You don't even get a full day off on, a full day to get ready on Monday. I think you beat the Hawks. If for no other reason, for my own sanity, you got to beat the Hawks. And then you got to find a way to split those 2 games. I'd like to think we beat the Heat on Sunday, which, by the way, since we've been talking, they won tonight, so we're now 2 games back behind the Heat. We were 1.5 games to start the show. Now we're 2 games back. And so I'd like to think you beat the Heat. I feel like you have to beat the Heat. And hopefully by next Sunday, we have more bodies back. Hopefully Franz is there. So that's my prediction. It might be the easy way out, but I say you beat Atlanta, you beat Miami after losing to the Knicks and the Sixers. So I'll say 2-2.
Yeah, I think for me, like this week, the beginning of the week, I agree with you. I don't see us, the Knicks have been playing so well. They're at home. It's MLK Day. The Magic are depleted. Schedule sucks. You don't even get a full day's rest because of like travel and everything like that. So I agree with you the way that the week starts. You have to find a way to split that Friday, Sunday with Philadelphia or Miami. I don't particularly care who it comes against. I would prefer to win both of those games. It would be awesome to beat the Heat. But the Joel Embiid, sort of being like in and out of the lineup, the last couple of weeks is going to be something to monitor. Now, we played Philadelphia a couple weeks ago at home without Joel Embiid, and it didn't really matter.
No.
But I would like to think that we wouldn't allow that to happen twice, like consecutive, matchups against that team. So I do think you've got to find a way to beat Miami on Sunday. Now, they'll probably have Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero and those guys back, so it's going to make it a lot more difficult. But you lose to Miami on Sunday, you lose the season series, and then you're losing that head-to-head tiebreaker and all that kind of stuff. So that becomes incredibly important when it comes to seeding because they're 2 games ahead of us right now, and they haven't been all that great this year. I know that Jimmy's missed a decent amount of time, but I still think that us, New York, Cleveland, Miami are going to continue to bounce back and forth like around that 4 to 7 and 8 seeds there. And if you lose to Miami, then it's just like that season series and that tiebreaker sort of goes out of the window, and that's going to be crucial down the stretch. So unfortunately, I think we're looking at probably a 1-3 week unless you're able to get Franz back. Like, I was really hoping Franz would be back at some point on the road trip. He's already out Monday. I don't feel great about the fact that he was ruled out 24 hours ahead of time. Maybe if he was questionable, I would feel good about him playing Wednesday, potentially. But the fact that he was like immediately ruled out tells me that he's probably not back for Wednesday. So you're hoping that he can come back for Friday against Philadelphia at home.
Yeah. Speaking of injuries, I do just want to mention about Monday's game. Jalen Brunson missed the next game on Saturday, and he's questionable for Monday. It is a calf contusion, a.k.a. a little tiny eensy-weensy bruise on his calf. So he's probably going to play on Monday. But we'll see. Maybe there's a chance he's out. At this point, obviously, we're never rooting for injuries, never rooting for that, ever. But, if a player's out for the other team, I wouldn't hate it, So, but we'll see. Obviously, I think he'll play. But, you got to get Franz back this week, right? You got to. I hope so, man.
I would think so. But honestly, when he went out, I didn't think that he would be out, it's almost been 2 weeks now. So I thought that he would be back by this point, just the way that he's recovered from previous injuries. Yeah, Wednesday will be 2 weeks for Franz. So I didn't envision him being out this long, but that, ankle sprain, just pretty significant. And it's happened a few times now. I don't remember if it's the same ankle that he injured earlier in the summer in the FIBA World Cup. And Paolo, a guy who, he seems to tweak an ankle, every now and again. And before he did it last season, he said he had never had an injury. So I remember the last time he hurt the ankle, I think it was against Sacramento, like when he screams in the middle of that game, and he was asked about it. I think he was like, "Oh, it's the same ankle that always." So now the fact that is like his quote unquote bad ankle, I don't love that, and I don't know if what's going on with Franz, like, oh, that's just his bad ankle, and if something happens to it now, he's gonna miss a little bit more time. But I would hope that you would get those guys back. Hopefully, we're able to get Wendell back. He's questionable for that game on Monday, but I'm not super hopeful that even if he does come back, that he's going to be back for good, because this knee tendonitis thing with him, it's like the plantar fasciitis that he was dealing with last year. It's just going to keep coming back, and yeah, we just haven't had a ton of luck on that front this year. So,
yeah.
All right, Kev, I don't really have anything else. I think that's going to do it for this one. Wrap this one up, unless you got something else.
I just have one correction. We said earlier we thought all 30 teams play on Monday, MLK Day. It's not true. Only 22. There's 11 games, but that's all I have. So yeah, MLK always a fun day of basketball. Obviously a very important day for us, though, to remember kind of what that day is about and celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But yes, in his honor, we will definitely enjoy some basketball Monday. It'll be fun.
We absolutely will. And hey, if you are listening to this Monday, I forgot to mention this. I was lucky enough to make an appearance on Nick's Film School with our buddy Andrew Claudio. So if you want to hear about the preview of that matchup from like a Knicks perspective, get a little bit of Magic perspective as well, go ahead and check that out ahead of Monday's game. So that's going to do it for this one. Wherever Luke Sylvia is, we know he's having a great time. We got a video earlier of that man singing "Party in the USA."
We sure did
at a piano bar. So we know he's having a fantastic time. Appreciate producer. Let's just give a round of applause, everybody, for producer Kevin and what he's been doing this season with the post game lives. Been so much fun, doing a great job. I'm telling you, folks, I've done one. It's not easy to do that. So appreciate Kevin and everything that he does as always. But that's going to do it for this one. For producer Kevin Tucker and Luke Sylvia, wherever the heck that joker is, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!